Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to actually watch the Battlefield Labs trailer before it was released publicly. That's right, I saw it publicly before it was released, and you've probably already seen the trailer. And speaking of which, Lawrence hasn't even seen the trailer yet.
Bruce's lifelong dedication to Battlefield paid off by watching a, 3-minute piece of video before everyone else could?
Probably 2.5, 2.5, 3 minutes.
Ooh, overshot, okay.
It's such an because it's funny because I got invited to this and they're like, okay, it's a trailer for Battlefield, the new Battlefield. And I was like, whoa, wow, like I'm excited. Battlefield 6, they're going to show me Battlefield 6. And it wasn't that. It was completely different. And it's such an interesting trailer, sort of threw, I think, me and everybody else that was in that call off. So I will describe it to you very briefly, since Lawrence has not seen it yet. It is basically a bunch of developers working for the different studios that are working on Battlefield. So Ripple Effect, Criterion, DICE, Motive, talking about what Battlefield Labs is. Now, Battlefield Labs is a closed testing environment. It's something that I think a lot of large AAA video games do, where they have a closed testing environment for, especially for multiplayer games. And usually they'll invite, some outside people in, but generally speaking, they'll have developers, QA, working in this closed testing environment for months or years. However, Battlefield is opening this up to the public. So they are allowing people to come into their closed testing environment under NDA. So you can't talk about what you play. You can't record it, stream it, none of that. But you can test Battlefield and give them feedback, which I thought was a very interesting concept. So that's what this trailer is. It's just literally them describing what you will test in Battlefield Labs. Not very specifically, but there are a few things here and there that you sort of can glean. They show some destruction. They show some combat that looks like a modern setting. But in terms of gameplay, Lawrence, they really don't show much. It's just a bunch of developers sitting at computers, and you talking about how you're going to join them for the feedback loop of Battlefield before the major release of the next game. So hit me with your questions, Lawrence. What do you think? This is weird. It's really weird, and I'm positive. Like, I feel optimistic about it, but it is a very strange thing to do.
It is, but it seems like it's the only potential way to actually launch a Battlefield problem-free. Because they can do whatever load testing and they can try to simulate what it's like on launch day, but we've seen time and time again that it's just not there. And in the past, they've almost knowingly launched games before they're fully cooked. So this almost seems like a way to, it seems like it's a logistic step to actually make sure that the game's bug-free, but also it seems like it's a bit of a community massaging thing to get everyone's buy-in early, right? It's not black box anymore. We're letting you in. You can yell at us as much as you want before the game launches, and then hopefully they can win people over and get the sentiment turned around before the game even launches, or before they even start showing the game or marketing it. So I don't know. From a strategy standpoint, it seems like it's coming from a good place. I don't know, Bruce. What's your read on it?
That you've nailed it. So we asked questions to the developers and PR, who, by the way, have been very transparent and open with us. And that's exactly what they said. They knew that community is the number one thing when it comes to Battlefield, in the sense that the community drives the popularity of these games and the length of how long people play these Battlefields. And I think they, without acknowledging the fact that the 2042's launch was so bad in terms of community, they were saying, look, no, we're doing this because we want to talk to you. We want to hear what you have to say about the game before we release it. And I think that's a huge step. So the more that I talked to them and more that I watched this trailer, the more optimistic I was of Battlefield Labs, because they created this in response to the outcry. And that's exciting to me. I like when developers are like, hey, we kind of get that we screwed up last time. Let's do it right this time.
And I guess if I think a little more cynically, if you get that volume of people playing your game, you not only get access to what they say, but you get access to what they do. You can see if players are staying engaged, and perhaps most terrifyingly, you can see if they're not before launch. So I could see even during this phase, if they can't if they don't see players like hitting the play session times they want or something like that, that might be like an early warning that this game, they need to retool some stuff. I don't know, that's me extrapolating some cynicism, but I'm more curious about the 2 seconds, 3 seconds of gameplay footage you saw?
Yeah.
Destruction. What's being destroyed and how?
Yes.
I want to hear all about things blowing up.
Okay. So what they only show in the trailer very briefly is hallways and buildings. So it looks very much like the finals. I'm not saying every building, but there are the buildings they show, a dude fires an RPG into it and the whole thing comes down. And it looks like the finals. So this isn't, to me, this does not look like a predefined, like, oh, here's the one building you can bring down, destruction. It does look like anything can be destroyed. This is all speculation on my part for the few seconds I saw. But I will also say that when I asked them about this, they said the two things they are focusing on currently for Battlefield Labs, like their primary focus right now is combat and destruction. So that's great. That's good to hear, because in 2042, we had lots of tornadoes, but we really didn't have, I think, the amount of destruction that players wanted. And if they're putting it back into Battlefield, I'm very excited for that.
It opens up cool gameplay scenarios, because if you can destroy things, you can remove cover, and then that changes the engagements at a point. I assume it's still like, did you see any kind of UI that implies it's like capture and hold, like traditional Battlefield style? 5 points of diamonds that are very like blue or red kind of thing?
Nah, not really. I don't think they showed enough to that for that. But I would imagine, obviously, yes, Battlefield Labs is going to be deathmatch and conquest probably. But it probably is just starting out as a deathmatch type of thing. And because I don't think they didn't show any vehicles or not. By the way, just so you know, I can't refer to anything right now when we're recording this because I don't have the file.
You just saw it once, yeah.
Yeah, I just saw it twice. They showed it twice.
Roll it again.
Yeah, but I don't. They may have shown a vehicle or two. But but it's mainly guys running through a city, and that's usually the sort of the basis of Battlefield is that.
Yeah, I'm curious how destruction will be, if there's going to be any gameplay response to it, because like in Battlefield 5 you could build cover or rebuild stuff, so you would level an area, but then rebuilding the cover was part of the gameplay experience or part of the loop. So I assume maybe there will be like an engineer class will be able to build some like temporary cover or something like that, because yeah, in some Battlefield maps, depending how it goes, you'll have points that are just flat because they've been leveled, and that's awesome, but it also makes shootouts pretty shitty, because it just means everybody's like away from the point sniping into it, and then one idiot, me, like laying prone in the middle of it getting shot over and over again. So yeah, I'm kind of curious how destruction will play out over the course of a 45 or 50 minute match. Did you see any Levolution stuff, like big set piece destructions, or is it all buildings getting blown up?
Not really. I think they kind of again, this may have been like just a half second of it or something, but generally speaking, the gameplay they showed was just running through a city, firing at buildings, at other guys, like a bunch of people pushing a point. Very much like you would understand Battlefield would be. And I would imagine that's probably where they're at in terms of testing for Battlefield Labs. They're probably not into the, like let's bring in 64 players and then level skyscrapers. This is probably more the on the ground, take a couple points type of thing. Yeah, and just to refer to the gameplay again, from what you could see, it's a modern setting. So a lot of people were sort of wondering if 6 was going to be a sequel to, whatever, Battlefield 4, or was it going to, go back to World War I? Who knows? This to me looks like another modern setting that I think people want. I don't know. I'm not sure. I kind of don't care. I've never cared about when Battlefield was. I could play Battlefield I could play in the future, in the past, it doesn't matter. But I think this to me looks like a modern setting, like set in, let's say 2030 or something. Okay,
so very near future, but no cyber soldiers with like laser drones and stuff like that?
I mean, they didn't show those. But I wouldn't put it past them to have some like near future gadgets that are like, like drones or similar things that we sort of know, but we don't. Again, this is all speculation because they only show 5 seconds of gameplay. But it seems to me that it's a modern setting, set in a relatively near future.
Did anything and I started to keep mining these 5 seconds, but yeah. I'm fascinated to hear about it. As somebody who's played played Battlefield over its whole franchise, Did anything in those 5 seconds stand out to you as being atypical? Because it sounds like you're describing what's trying to be the like foundational Battlefield experience. Dudes with guns and squads running through city streets. Were there any squirrel suit dudes? Anything wacky, or is it just full on? Yeah, just straightforward.
No, pretty straightforward. And I think that's kind of what the community wants. I don't think that they're looking for squirrel guys flying over you, quipping. You know, I think they're looking for a squad push where they can bring down a building with an RPG and get the flag. Like because that's what everybody remembers as good Battlefield. I don't know that anybody's going to be like, oh man, I really wanted that one thing from 2042. Like, I mean, I don't know that that's probably going to come up, to be honest. I love 2042, and there are lots of things that I think would be cool in the next one, but if they don't have it, I don't care. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me.
This is a very open-ended question, but do you think a vanilla Battlefield experience is vibrant enough to stand out in today's shooter ecosystem?
Well, that's a great question, because we have Delta Force, right? We've got the free-to-play.
Yeah, we got free-to-play Delta Force, and like you said, we have the finals that has that level of destruction, and I guess it's doing okay, but I don't think it's succeeding to the level that EA wants or needs Battlefield to succeed.
So I think, now I know I just talked about how the foundation of Battlefield is infantry, but I really do think the magic of Battlefield is the scale and the vehicles. So as you scale up and the maps get larger, and again, in Battlefield 4, when you brought down the whole skyscraper, everyone marveled. It was cool every time. And you had jets flying over and, you know, plowing into the skyscraper, it's falling. That's the kind of thing that I think we want. So I think with Labs, they're testing the core combat first, and then I hope we'll scale up, because we've got the free-to-play Delta Force that pretty much handles the core combat of Battlefield. It's not as good, but it's close. And I do think Battlefield needs a little more magic involved when it comes to the scale up of the tanks and the jets and the helicopters and all that other stuff that they could do really well that Delta Force doesn't do as well.
Did you get an implication of those scale moments in the 5 seconds? No, it was more focused on like an individual squad.
No, it was all focused on a squad, and even then I think talking to them about Battlefield Labs, it seemed like they wanted you to go in and shoot dudes. Like they want you in Operation Metro, where you're going to sit there and just fire down a hallway and like throw medic bags and stuff, like, which by the way is fun. It's really, and people love that, and I did. But I think they are testing that now, and I think as Labs progresses, they are going to start making it bigger and start giving us a little more of a preview of what the next Battlefield will be. They didn't have a timeline for the next Battlefield. I believe actually, here's what I can say. They said they have a timeline, but they didn't tell us. So they do have a timeline for the next Battlefield. So it could be 2028. Like, I don't know. But with Labs and seeing what they're doing with Labs, this to me feels like they're pushing to a 2025 release. I'm guessing. I think that they, let's say, get 6 months of really good testing from, you know, lots and lots of players, and then they can push Battlefield out or holiday, or they can wait if they have lots of really failed tests. Then you can be like, we delayed it to 2026. That's what this feels like to me. Again, that's just me guessing, but I do know they have a timeline. They said they have a time.
I remember a while ago you had said that like the best thing that could happen to Battlefield is for it to go free to play, or that's the only way it could stay relevant, something like that. Do you think this is something of a compromise? It is a way for people to play it for free, despite the paperwork. So it's almost like, I don't know, it seems like they're kind of straddling the fence. They can still sell it for $70 down the road, but they can get people in early and playing it and stuff. Yeah,
Lawrence, is a fantastic point, because yes, I think that Vince Zampella and the boys went to EA and said, please, can we do a free-to-play model? And they said no. And so then Vince Zampella and the developers all went, you know what we'll do? We're going to have a closed testing environment anyways. Let's just spend a little more money on having a Discord and inviting people in and having them test over the course of a few months under NDA. And then, people can go in and play. They can't talk about their experience until the NDA is up, but we can get their feedback from actual players out there versus releasing a free-to-play like Delta Force and then it just being so broken. So hopefully this is pushing toward a free-to-play mode that the next Battlefield will have, like I've been begging them to put in. But this, I think you're right, Lawrence. I think it is a compromise.
Yeah, when I'm thinking through it, it's pretty brilliant because the NDA will get violated. We'll see footage like in the first hour, but EA they have paperwork to chase people down if they need to, and also that kind of creates a little fun. Like, you're being a bad boy watching leaked footage, but they know that. So this is I feel like it's an interesting way to kind of like, titillate the core a little bit and get them buzzing about this. The possible downside is if the footage leaks and it's dog shit, and everybody like passes judgment on the game immediately. But yeah, if the closed test keeps going and then they add something new to it, they add a building you can blow up, footage of that leaks and everybody's like, whoa, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, it seems like this is a really interesting way to kind of to get the stock of the soup right before you start adding ingredients and other players. So yeah, how do you see any downside to this, Bruce? How could you see this going wrong?
What you just said, leaking footage of like where like it's like when they leaked alpha footage of GTA and it looks terrible. That's what it could happen. Somebody could leak something where that's like just long neck guy running through the city, trying to shoot an RPG and it's just glitching over. Like that could be really bad. But I imagine now that they're pushing labs and opening it up to the public a little bit, they probably don't have anything that is that bad right now. I hope so that when it is leaked, because it will be leaked, it will look cool. It'll be like you said, we shot this. We attempted to bring down these 3 buildings. All of them came down and killed an entire squad, and we took the flag. Like that's the Battlefield we want, right? That's what everybody wants. So hopefully it'll be that. That's the only downside I could see are those leaks. But beyond that, I'm really excited to try it. I don't even know when they're going to open up labs to people to join. I know that you can, when you're watching this, you can join their Discord, and then they'll, I think, selectively pick people to come in and do the closed test.
When you mentioned the destruction and vehicles, I'm imagining planes flying into buildings and knocking them over. So clips of that might trickle out of the closed beta. But I mean, how sick would that be, though? You like 9/11 references aside, if you punch out of a plane and then you're like parachuting down and you see your plane smash into a building and it topples over and you see all dudes falling out of it. Amazing. I'm imagining it now. That's what I want out of Battlefield 6. Bruce, what are you hoping for? And is where it's going, does it seem like it's aligning with what you want?
Yeah, so the more that I played 2042, the more I was just like, why did they not make it so that I could bring down a building? Just any little building, because I think that's the most fun part of running around as infantry in Battlefield is knowing that no one has any cover. And playing the finals, and even playing a little bit in Delta Force, because Delta Force has some destruction as well. The more that I did that in those games, the more I was like, man, why did they get rid of that in 2042? So seeing the fact that they are focusing on destruction in this trailer for labs really has me excited. Because if they are able to scale up the destruction to everything, like you said, Lawrence, because in other Battlefields, you can fly a jet into a building and bring it down and hop out and take the flag. You could do that. So I don't know why we can't do that now. So I'm very excited to see that destruction as their core focus, because I think the internet is also excited to see it too.
I think it's a way you can turn heads.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a bit bizarre that they didn't harness on that earlier than this. I guess it over and over it was decided to be too costly of a gameplay feature when we have to ship a Battlefield every 2.5 years or something like that. So they're taking a little longer with this one, which also makes me think when footage does leak out, it probably won't look as rickety and like alpha as some other games when they do, actually leak.
I hope so. Any other questions about labs at all? Because I know it's sort of a weird concept.
I've been a part of beta programs before where they're pretty, like they do ask things in return of like, if you're going to be a part of this process, you have to fill out a survey once a week or something like that. Were there any stipulations about participation, or is it really just sign this form, then you get to play the beta and that's it?
They didn't say if there were requirements. They did say that if you do get selected for the closed test, you can't talk about it. You can't show footage. You could talk about it with other people that were in it, and you could obviously talk to the developers, but you're not able to publicly talk about your test. So I would imagine that they're gonna, especially, I mean, the Battlefield community loves to talk about Battlefield. So I would imagine they're not going to have no shortage of feedback for people joining this Battlefield Labs. So yeah, there might be a requirement or something to fill out a survey, but generally speaking, people are going to be just saying things over and over in the Discord. Similar to actually Deadlock. I don't know if I joined that Deadlock Discord long before they even ever got anywhere near. I don't think is the game even out? But no, it's not, right? Yeah.
Not even officially announced, I don't think, still.
Yeah, so I was watching that Discord, and that's what people are doing for the Deadlock Discord. They would come in, play the game, and they'd be like, this character does this wrong, this character does this right, like giving them unsolicited feedback. So I would assume that that's what the Discord is for Battlefield Labs. And as always, if you don't want to, like, if they do have requirements for feedback, then you don't have to do it. Simple as that.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was just wondering if they put any stipulations on participation in this program beyond just keeping your mouth shut. Okay, last and most important question. I see your note here that the theme music has returned. Has it been reorchestrated, or is it just kind of the classic horns? And is it like because I know Battlefield 4 had like that ridiculously overdriven buzzy one. 1942 is like very, very respectful military horns, you know, the funeral trumpets and stuff. How does this version of the Battlefield theme sound?
So this is the only, because I don't get chills very often, but this is the only time that I got chills at the very end of this trailer when they're showing an RPG hit that building and the thing comes down, and then they play the digital sort of Battlefield theme, the glitchy theme. It's not 2042. This was like the Battlefield 4 theme, and 4, I believe, is my favorite. So when I got to hear that glitchy Battlefield theme, I was like, oh, it's back! Because that 2042 music was terrible. It was so bad. And I was like, what are they doing? So the theme is back. And so when you hear it and you see the destruction, hopefully it makes you feel like Battlefield's back.
It really, yeah. Okay, that on top of everything else seems like they are trying to pluck all the Battlefield 4 strings of like destruction, modern military, glitchy Battlefield theme. And that's Battlefield 2 is probably the one I got the most hardcore into, but I had so many good evenings with 3 and 4. So I'm pretty pleased that they're going back to that tonally and situationally. What are you most excited about, Bruce? It sounds like this is pretty positive for you. Yeah, you're feeling pretty good about it? It's
funny because the more I talk about it, the more I am positive about it. I just think that we were expecting a trailer for 6. We didn't get it. So I do think this is a really positive step for Battlefield and for the community. All that's left is for them to listen. That's it. That's all. That's all it takes is for them to then listen to the feedback and continue to iterate and make the game according to the feedback they get from Battlefield Labs. So if they do that, then they should have a fantastic launch, right?
Man, a first. A Battlefield first.
It's true. It's true. So anyways, thanks for talking to me about it, Lawrence. I know you hadn't seen the trailer yet, so it's when you watch it, you'll be like, oh, this makes sense.
I'll poke frame by frame through the 5 seconds of something exploding.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. I don't know. I love this stuff. I love the theater of the imagination. It's old school when a game journalist used to watch a trailer in a dark room at the LA Convention Center and then have to write 2 pages about it. So, no, this is awesome. And I'm a Battlefield fan too, so I'm excited. It sounds like they're doing the best faith approach they possibly can, and that's nice.